Hello, and welcome to my next tutorial. Today I'm going to be continuing on with Python lists, and I'm going to actually introduce you to something new called for loops. So this is the first example of a loop that I've actually shown you in my Python beginner tutorials. Okay, so we have a dog list here, and when we print it out, you'll see that all the elements are there. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 elements here. And we want to actually loop through this list and say, my dog's name is blah, blah, blah. My dog's name is Bear, Roo, Bailey, Max. So the way you do that in Python is you do for each in the dog list, and you put a colon at the end. And I'll explain what this does in a second. So you press enter here, you'll see the interpreter switches to ... And whenever you see that, it's basically saying, okay, we understand that there's more input coming for this command after this. You can see here, every time I pressed enter here, you would get these 3 arrows, meaning that the command completed and is ready for more. This is actually saying we're continuing on for this line above. So the next thing that is very important in Python is indentation. So in many other programming languages, you would use these curly brackets. You do not use those in Python at all. The way Python works is that you use spaces to represent things that you want inside the for loop. So there's 2 things. It's either inside the for loop or it's outside the for loop. Outside the for loop, it's just going to print once. If it's inside the for loop, it can print as many times as it loops through the for loop. So we want to do 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces here, and we want to do print each. And I'll explain this line a little bit more here. So basically what we're doing here is we're taking a Python list, and it's going to loop through each element of the list, and every time it loops through, it's going to take each element and assign it to each. So the first time it goes through this loop, Comet is going to be assigned to each. The next time is Bear, the next time is Roo is going to be assigned to each, the next time is Bailey, and then Max. And now it's actually saying, do you want to do even more here? We don't, so we just want to press enter here, and you'll get the output of the list here. Now you're probably saying, what's the difference between printing this and actually doing a list? There's not much here on the output here other than there's line breaks here. But say we want to say that we put all these dogs in a sentence. So we can just do this. My dog's name is... Now see, you couldn't have done that easily with this here. So this is how you do it with a for loop. So the same for loop here, and now we put our statement here. And I did something a little special here that I'll explain in a minute. You can see I wanted to use a single quote mark here. So instead of using a single quote mark here, I used the opposite of the quote marks here, because if you put this like this, you're going to get an error message. It doesn't know how to represent. So this one matches this one, but this one doesn't match anything. So this will error out. So that's what I did here with this special. I basically used the opposite quote mark I wanted to use. So say I want to put a double quote mark here instead. The way I would do that is I do for each, and I change this one to a double, and I change these, and I leave these singles. So this time, it knows this one matches with this one, and it'll actually just print out the double quote mark inside there. So that's a quick little tip on how to print strings with single or double quotes here, is that just use the opposite quote mark in the string in order to represent it. So that's how we went through 4 loops. We can print out the dogs like this. Okay. The last thing I want to show you, or a couple more things I want to show you, is how do we do this if we wanted to use a single quote here. And this is what's called an escape string. And in Python, it's a backslash. So whenever you need an escape string, basically saying whatever this character is after this, completely ignore it in Python's interpreter. So this quote mark will now match this quote mark instead of this one. Basically it escapes out and does not interpret this one. So this will also work. So that's how you can use the escape string. Okay, so that's how you use a for loop and the special print statements in a Python list. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is let's prove that each one of these are a string. So we can actually just do this. So for each in dog list, and instead of typing this all in, I'm just going to copy paste it and explain it. So basically it says my dog's name is each, and we want a space here. I'm going to actually put a period space here. The data type of this item is, and we need to convert it to a string in order to concatenate it to this sentence, and we're going to check the type of each time. So this is what you'll get on the output. You get my dog's name is Comet, and then the class type is string. That's how you can check the data type with a loop inside of Python. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is, which I don't recommend doing, but some people do it, is that you can mix data types in a list. So let me clear this screen. Let's print dog list. You can see these are all strings, but what happens if we do dog list.append 33? Now, you can see this has no single quotes around it, and it is an integer contained in a list of strings. And you can actually prove that by saying, okay, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we do print dog list 5, and we need to do type, it is an integer inside a list of strings. So this will break your for loop here if you're not careful. What happens here is it reaches this item 33 here. So actually so you can see here I convert the string, or the integer here, even though these are all strings, each time I'm converting it back to a string here. So if I did not have this here, you'll get an error message. And this is what I'll say. It says can't convert integer object to string implicitly. So what you need here is a conversion to string if you're going to mix data types like this and you want to print them out. So they get 33 here, and I need to put that space back in here like that. Okay, so you can see here that it didn't error out. It printed out the 33 because we converted it to a string, and you actually get a class int. I don't recommend mixing data types like that. And I'll actually show you here a different way to represent different data types in actually two different lists. Okay, so let's just do dog list.pop. Let's get rid of that 33. Okay, so now we have the 5 dogs back. Okay, say we want to keep track of the dog's age on top of the dog's name. The easiest way to do that is actually to create another list and just do dog age list. So now we have dog's age list. and we have print dog list. And you can just see Comet is 3, Bear is 2, Roo is 3, Bailey is 4, and Max is 5. It's a lot easier to maintain 2 lists instead of trying to pack in different data types into the same list. So now I'm going to show you how to print out a sentence that says my dog's name is and his or her age is what. So this is a more advanced for loop. So we're going to do for slot location, comma, each. So up to this point, the only thing that's new is slot location. And basically what this does is every time the loop loops through it, slot location is going to go 0 and each is going to be Comet. This one's going to be 1, and each is going to be Bear. Roo's going to be 2. Each is going to be Roo. Slot location is going to be 3. Each is going to be Bailey. This is going to be 4, and this one's going to be, and each will be Max. And then we do in, and instead of just specifying the list, like we used in the last one, we just did dog list. We have to do enumerate dog list. And before we print out anything, I'm going to print out the fancy sentence that says their age. I will show you this. I'm just going to do print slot location. And you actually have to convert this to a string because these are integers. And now we're going to print each. So basically, it's going to just say 0 Comet, 1 Bear, 2 Roo, 3 Bailey, 4 Max. Okay. Now that's as expected, but how do we now print out their age in one single sentence? And the way you do that is like this. So here we go. My dog's name is each. So every time the loop goes through, you'll get the dog's string name. And his or her age is, we need to convert it to a string. And we take the age list and we pass it the slot location. So every time this loop goes through, remember this how it went 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 here? It is actually passing that number that is changing here in the slot location, and then it's calling the dog list, the dog age list, and then converting it to a string. So now you'll get this. And now you can keep track of multiple things in multiple lists, and you can access them easily by using the slot location. Now you just got to make sure the length of your lists are always equal. If you start having mismatch of lengths, then you're not keeping track of anything. So you always want to make sure that your length of dog list and the length of your dog list age, dog age list, are equal. Because if they're not, then you're not keeping track of anything because you have a mismatch of either you have more dogs or you have more age of dogs that you don't have in there. So you want to make sure they're equal, but as long as they're equal, you can loop through them with this statement right here. And you can even have a third list. So let's do one more. So let's do dog owner list. And let's do Dave, Steve, Matt, Chris, Bob. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What did I do? I forgot a single quote here. Okay, so now we have 3 lists. And we have the dog's name, the dog's age, and the owner of the dog. So now to print out that, let's do this again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to print this whole thing. And this time, but we're going to say plus the owner's name is colon plus. And this time, I'll just type this in. String. And it's all right if it wraps around the screen. It'll still work, actually. So we have dog, owner, list, and we have to pass it the slot location. And then we close that, and then we close the conversion to the string, and then we actually have to close the whole print statement at the end. So now this is going to say that the dog's name is, and his or her age is, and then it's even going to say who the owner is. So this is how you get that. My dog's name is Comet. It's 3 years old, and the owner is Dave. So that's how you can manage multiple lists, and you have access to unlimited lists if you need another element. Say you need to keep track of the owner's age. That's an easy way. You can just do dog, owner, age list, and make a list of the ages of the owner. So there's unlimited lists in Python, and you can just keep going if you need to keep track of multiple things like this. So here's in one statement we were able to print out the dog name, the age of the dog, and the owner. And that's how you use for loops in Python. And we'll get into more other loops later on, but that's how to get started with them. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and check out my next video.